Good evening. My name is Giddens Roberts, and I am here for Caribbean Streaming Network. And I am here with Minister Teixeira, who is probably the longest serving member on this panel that we've had.
Yes.
And that showed because you had such a wealth of knowledge. There were some pieces that I would like to pick out from what you talked about. There were so many important pieces, but the part that you talked about just Guyana's commitment and respect for the Amerindian community.
Yes.
That's something that I'd like. You were talking about earlier which piece we'd like to talk about.
Okay.
That was, I felt very proud as a Guyanese.
Yes.
That Guyana had such a commitment. And could we talk about how much of Guyana then the Amerindian community does own?
Yes, I think it's important for generally to promote Guyana as a unique country in many, many respects. And certainly a country that's had quite a turbulent past, but also one in which some really positive things have happened and innovative and progressive. And so, for example, as you're asking about the Amerindian Act, in 1992, the Amerindian population was 5%. It is now over 10% of the population. They're the fastest growing ethnic group in Guyana.
Really?
And in fact, as you know, we had 6 different peoples. We're all minorities, but the fastest growing ethnic group in Guyana are the indigenous people. And that is because we've improved access to healthcare, education, and so forth. But one of the most special things in terms of indigenous people's rights, and Guyana is a model for that globally, actually, not just in this hemisphere, is the fact that the indigenous people of Guyana can apply to acquire communal land. And what is done is that they're able to do so, and it becomes communal land that is absolute and forever. No one can take it away from them. So unlike in the rest of the Caribbean and Latin America, and I think even the United States and so on, we know the history of the indigenous people in North America, which has not been one that we should ever be proud of. But in the South American context, many of the indigenous people get what is called a presidential decree for their land, and when that president leaves, they sometimes lose it.
Oh.
Whereas for us, it is by statute. They apply and they will get their communal land, which is basically done on the natural boundaries around it. They don't have to show, which other countries have, that they have been there for hundreds of years. So it's not ancestral land.
Okay.
We don't use the words ancestral land because that would mean you'd have to prove you've been there for 500 years or 300 years. And of course, these are were nomadic people who had no written language.
Yes.
And so that's the innovation in the Guyanese statutes. And so what has happened as a result is that as of now, the indigenous population of Guyana own over 14% of Guyana's land mass.
Over 14% of Guyana.
And that is not finished. They can ask for extensions of their land, apply for that, and they also have communities that are waiting for their land to be given. So over time, and of course the Act says that if the community is there for 25 years and they have a population of 250, they can also apply. And so once they're indigenous peoples, they can. And so the land is communal, title forever and absolute, which means that when you want to, say, do an investment there, you have to get the permission of the elected village councillors, the Tusha or the captain, and you have to get their permission if it's to do mining or fishing or whatever. And those people have to pay royalties to them. So they have their own internal governance structures. It is extraordinarily important in terms of developing indigenous communities and also mainstreaming them, that they've always been treated over the years as exotica. Let's go see the natives kind of thing, which is horrible. But this is where they are Guyanese, they're our people, and they have the exact same rights as every other Guyanese, and they have additional rights in terms of they're the only ethnic group that can own communal land.
I like it.
And so it's something we're very proud of, and we've said to countries, it's through a consultative process, it's through an iterative process, And we actually have a fund called the Amerindian Land Titling Fund,
Okay.
which is put aside to be able, for when they apply, then the whole surveying of the land and the laying out of the land and the legal documentation is covered by that.
So you're not throwing up roadblocks to make it
No,
harder.
no.
That's the key point. You've
No.
made this so much easier because you really want this to be done.
Yeah.
That's the
I mean,
important piece.
in the 70s, the then president had given a number of Amerindian communities, okay, here's your land. But they weren't demarcated. So you had a piece of land that said, you own this land, but where are the boundaries? What's the coordinates? And so when we came in, we changed all that and actually worked with the people. Okay, what are your boundaries? So some communities are very large, 365 square miles.
Oh, wow,
We're not
okay.
talking about small communities. You know, they of course.
Some of the size of a small island.
Yes,
folks.
exactly. yes. So, you know, it's 365 square miles. Some of them, there's another one, what is in the tip of Guyana, what is called YY country. That also is hundreds of acres of land. So these are not homesteads. These are not, you know, a 50 acre. None of them are.
Wow.
They're over 80 to 200, 300 square miles. And that's their land.
Nice.
And you know, out of respect, if you're going to go and have a meeting there, you ask permission of the Tushao.
Okay.
So it's a recognition that they are part of Guyana, they are part of our country, but to respect their culture and the laws.
I like it.
Right? So I didn't get to speak about it at the conference because you talk about business.
But you know, you touched on it, and I thought, wait a second, that's amazing, and that's something I just never knew.
Yeah.
And that is so respectful. I mean, a lot of times as Guyanese, we do talk about how diverse we are, how immersive in each other's cultures we are, and that for us as publishers of Caribbean American Passport, that's something we've always led with, and we've always said that's because of our Guyanese upbringing,
Right.
that we learn to respect someone's culture, even if it is not of you,
exactly.
right? We take it for granted. I love to say, as Guyanese, I can do Easter just as well as Diwali and Pagwa and, you know, Ramadan. And so to see this carried through, I just didn't know. But it to me, it is what Guyana is.
And in fact, one thing is that we made a recent change to the Amerindian communities. You know, you're developing skills, you're developing the education and stuff like that. And so the level of development has improved. And so we amended the law to say that they could bid for works in their village up to $5 million, because before that, everything foreign, not foreigners, but coastlanders come in to build a school or to put up a water trestle. No, they can do it themselves. And so that whole issue of now trying to give them the skills, the money, and to do works in their village, and then
Truly
be able
empowering.
to, and then to bid in other communities, so that you can get them into mainstream Guyana in terms of their involvement with the society and the nation, and not being just treated out there that they have to be taken care of. And they don't want that. They want to stand on their own 2 feet.
Well thought out. Well thought out. I love it. I love it.
Okay.
Thank you, Minister Teixeira, for taking the time with Caribbean Streaming Network and us this evening.
Okay.